in CBC? Yes, there would be raised TLC, that is leukocytosis would be present. Then request urea, creatinine and electrolytes. As these patients are dehydrated, so urea and creatinine might be raised and electrolytes would be disturbed. You can also, you have to send for the blood for serum amylase to differentiate it from pancreatitis. And serum amylase could be raised in some other abdominal conditions as well. Now coming toward the imaging. The first important investigation is to order erect chest X-ray. It will show you the gas and the diaphragm. Here you can see in the pic, the arrow is showing you free gas under the dome of right under the right dome of diaphragm. If the patient is too ill for an erect film, then what will be the other option for you to look for the free gas under the diaphragm? If the patient is too ill for erect chest X-ray, what would be the other view you could advise to look for free gas under diaphragm? Yes, lateral decubitus. It can show gas beneath the abdominal wall. Then comes supine abdominal radiograph. What will supine abdominal radiograph tell you? What will be the findings in supine abdominal radiograph? Yes, it will show you multiple air fluid. It will show you dilated gas-filled loops of the bowel. Then comes CT scan. CT scan is increasingly used to identify the cause of peritonitis, and it may influence surgical strategy. And the last one is ultrasound scan, which is which has a role if the patient presents to you with pelvic peritonitis in females or with localized right upper quadrant peritonitis, then ultrasound scan plays a role. So after having the investigations done, our next step would be the management of the patients. We are supposed to do the general care of the patient. We have to address the correction of fluid and electrolyte imbalance, as these patients are very dehydrated and some might be in septic shock. So, and these are hypovolemic. So we have to treat their hypovolemia with fluid, and fluid balance should be monitored. The electrolyte imbalance should be corrected. Uh, uh, Central venous line should be passed, which will help us in measuring central venous pressure. NG tube should be passed to decompress the stomach and also to avoid aspiration in these patients. And the patient should be catheterized so that the output could be calculated and monitored. We should start broad spectrum antibiotic therapy covering the arrows and anaerols to prevent endotoxinemia to happen. And as these patients are in severe pain, so we should provide analgesic support to them. If the expertise are available, then we can offer them epidural analgesia, epidural, then we can, I'm sorry, we can offer them epidural infusion. The pain management plays an important role in the early mobilization of the patients. And lastly, if the patients need respiratory support, then we have to offer uh, ventilators. Now, after addressing the general condition of the patient and focusing on it, we have to go for the treatment of the specific cause. So, whenever a patient presents to you for peritonitis, after doing all the resuscitation, we don't have to wait for other things. Means there is no wait and watch policy. We have to move for surgery. So the operation must be carried out as soon as the patient is fit. So take the patient to the operation theater or do the laparotomy. Look for the cause. Uh, if there is a peritoneal fluid was present, then must drain it out and look for the cause. Sometimes the patient presents to us with perforation of the ileum secondary to tuberculosis or typhoid. And if there are the multiple segments of the gut are involved, or the gut is not healthy, or there is a massive peritonitis present, or the patient has presented to us late, then we have to go for the diversion. That could be in the form of the ileostomy. Or if the patient presents to us with perforation in the colon because of the malignancy or some other causes, then you can go for the colostomy or ileostomy. But if the bowel segment is healthy and resection is possible, then we can go for the primary repair or resection of the diseased gut. Then comes the peritoneal lavage, which is very, very important. We have to remove all the source of the infection, do the lavage till the seropurulent fluid is removed, and then go for the, it depends on the surgeon choice whether to go for the drainage or not. But if there is a need to place the drain tubes, then yes, we should go for the drainage. Now we are moving towards the next section of our tutorial, that is the counseling for the virus plateau. As all of you are familiar that before taking the patient to operation theater, you have to counsel the patient and his or her attendants regarding the condition of the patient's condition, and you have to explain the procedures which you are going to offer him or her, and the benefits of those procedures and the complications and the risk associated with it. So let's discuss the principles of counseling. So what are the principles? Where possible, explain the up-to-date, relevant information in a way that the patient will understand, and allow time for the patient to process information and ask any questions. So you have to explain the relevant information in a way to the patient that he will understand, and you will also allow time for the patient so that he can process the information and he can ask you any questions. We should not present information in a way that might influence patient's decision making. Explain the options fully. Means your counseling should be in the way that it doesn't look that you are influencing the patient that he has to do this. No, you have to explain all the options fully so that he understands all of them. Make sure to document what was said and decided. Most cases will also require a separate consent form to be signed. Emphasize that signing a consent form is not final and decision can be reversed at any time. So documentation is very, very important. And the hospitals are provided consent forms to your doctor for the documentation purpose. And it also has the medical legal importance. So there are the types of consent forms for the patients able to consent for themselves. Then there are the patients who require parental consent. Some requires parental consent, but where the procedure doesn't involve loss of consciousness, and patients who lack capacity. So while starting the counseling with the patient, you have to first wash your hands or sanitize your hands. Then introduce there is a mnemonic wipe, WIPE, where W stands for wash hands, I for introduce, P for permission, and E for explain the basis for discussion. So first of all, you have to wash or sanitize your hands. Then introduce yourself to the patient, greet him, uh, and gain the permission from the patient, as we will say, okay, hello, how are you? My name is Dr. ABC, and I'm a part of the team, I'm the part of the surgical team which is going to do your surgery, and may I have a permission from you to ask some questions and give some information to you. And after getting the permission from the patient, you explain the basis for discussion. So while explaining the basis for the discussion, what are the points which you have to cover? So we will discuss about the diagnosis of the patient, the current symptoms with which the patient has presented to you, and what will be the prognosis if we are not going to treat the patient. So what will be the prognosis? Then do we have some alternative options for treatment or investigations? We will also include the option that what will happen if we are not going to treat the patient. Let's say that you are telling them that this patient has presented with the perforation of the gut, and we are suspecting as he or she has having um, tuberculosis perforation, the patient is not in a good condition, and he might need ventilator support during or after the surgery, and the prognosis is not good. So it's possible that attendant will ask you or the patient will ask you that we are not willing for the surgery. Leave it, please. I don't want any treatment. So you have to tell him the prognosis if he will be treated and if he will not be treated. Then the purpose of proposed treatment, uh, what it will entail, means why, what is the purpose of the treatment we are going to offer him, what will be the procedure, and what will be the duration of procedure. So we will tell him that we are going to do to open his abdomen, and we will look for the cause of the perforation. And there are the chances that we might go for the diversion. We will make a hole in his gut and will bring it out of the abdominal wall, and then we'll apply a bag to it for some period, and his all feces or stool will collect in it. Then we will tell him about the stomach care and about the complications. The next point to discuss is that how the patient will prepare. How the patient will prepare for surgery includes all medication management or anesthesia preparation, and the general points to be discussed as clean and shade the operative area, keeping in ampule, and have to arrange for the blood and FFPs if needed. Then you have to discuss the risk or side effects as well as benefits. It will include the probabilities where possible. The risk of the surgery is well, these which I discussed with you in the previous slide. Then will explain what will happen after. That is at the short term and in the long term. Who will be involved and who is responsible for what. Uh, as for example, our all team will be involved. We will have a stomach care nurse available for stomach care, and he will counsel you regarding the stomach care in the long term. And it will also include any students. Then in the end, ask the patient uh, if he or she or if they may have any concerns. And it is good to check that the patient has understood everything, what the patient wishes or what he doesn't wish, and ask him if they have any concerns or any queries, and then ask them, if possible, to describe the procedure to you so that it makes you clear that he or she has understand